Thanks for tuning in to the Prime Bookseller Podcast, the bi-weekly podcast discussing all things Amazon bookselling.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Prime Bookselling Podcast. I'm Eric, and we are back again. Back on our timeline of actually dealing with Amazon stuff, which actually this is not specific Amazon stuff, but it is kind of specific Amazon stuff, so take it whichever way you want to. But this is another thing that actually I've recently realized that I have struggled with this mightily for the past 13 years. And with the realization that I have struggled with this, I have actually been able to make changes to it that I feel like are putting me on a much better path than I had been probably for the previous 13 years in my business. So what is that thing? And the thing is that if you take business classes, listen to entrepreneurs, a lot of people will tell you that you need to work on your business and not in your business. While I only partially agree with that statement because I am an entrepreneur that works in my business and actually was an entrepreneur that worked way too much in my business. And that's what I've learned is why it's important to step away from your business every once in a while. And I think that's the number one thing. Like, you don't have to I enjoy working in my business. And honestly, my business runs a lot smoother because I work in it. And the reason for that is because you're working alongside your employees. God forbid I love my employees, but they're not good at communicating problems. And so when you're actually doing the things that your employees are doing, you will catch things that are totally wrong with your processes that they just don't point out. Because I don't know if it's like a boss thing, they don't want to tell their boss that something's wrong or whatever the mentality is. But on numerous occasions, I've done something that an employee of mine has been doing for years. And I'm like, dude, this is like the worst process we could ever be doing. And it's like, well, it works. Like, why complain about it? And I'm like, because it's so inefficient. So there is that value of working within your business so that you can fix things like that. But at the same time, if you work only within your business, there's so many elements within your business. The way I describe this is like, imagine that your business is like a big factory machine. Okay, so let's just say that we're going to use like a paper mill for an example. So what happens in a paper mill? So they start with logs. They send these logs through a whole bunch of processes that turn that log into paper, right? Simple, whatever. That's very basic. But if you were to actually study all the processes that log goes through to get to paper, you're going to realize that that's a very complex thing. And when you're living within your business, that's what you see. You see all the complex layers of your business. And which is a good thing, because if there's one layer of that business that's struggling, you'll see it and you'll fix it. And that's a great thing to have. But the problem is that it's to get a business to effectively really grow, it's a hell of a lot easier to take a step back from your business, look at it and say, okay, I have this business, I have all these processes in it. But basically how I would equate it is I put a piece of inventory in, like for an Amazon business, you could say I put a piece of inventory in here, and then it comes out here and it creates X amount of dollars. And if you start looking at your business in that way, the idea of growing your business becomes a lot easier because your business isn't complex. It's just put inventory here, money come out here. What I did in this process is I actually created something, and I took all of my inventory and I took all my sales and I compiled numbers and figured out like what my average selling cost of an item is, how much of my inventory actually sells in a month, and blah, blah, blah. And I created this whole comprehensive forecasting thing. So basically now I can look at my business from a perspective of, okay, I would like to accomplish X amount of dollars in sales in a month. so I can just basically go into the spreadsheet and I can tell this spreadsheet, how do I get to X amount of dollars in the month? And it basically will forecast out over the next 12 months. I can say, hey, 12 months, I want to be at X amount of dollars in sales. And it will calculate, hey, add this amount of inventory each month. And then what it also does is that, because keep in mind that this is all forecasting based off of previous sales. So then what it does is it has you enter in your current sales to see, okay, as you're going through this process, first of all, are you adding the inventory you need to be adding? So it'll have you enter what your current inventory is and what it forecasts you should be at. So you can compare those two numbers to see, okay, we're right where we need to be. We don't need to add any more inventory or any more extra inventory to get caught up. And then it'll also give you what they project your sales would be. And you can compare that to what your actual sales are for each month. So each month you can go in and review and say, okay, we're on pace, we're growing this way. And this is a huge ass advantage to you, because now you can see, okay, if I follow this trajectory, in 12 months I should be here. And that could be a huge motivating factor to you. Whereas before I was doing this, basically I just looked at it and I said, well, the sales were pretty good this month, so let's not worry about ordering anything additional next month. So there was probably 6 months out of a year where I just said, I'm not going to bring in any extra inventory because the sales are fine. We don't need to increase them. Whereas this kind of creates an environment where you're forced to keep on building and building and building and building. And if I follow this, I will probably, I don't know, I am on a path to, let me think, almost triple my business in this year. And now understand that I've looked at the forecasting for tripling my business, and I think I'm almost 100% sure I can get there with the inventory I can get. And so, but there is going to be a cap on this, because at some point in time, wherever you're supplying your stuff from is going to run out of stuff to give you. So it's not like it's infinite, because you might have to then say, you're going to hit a block where you're going to have to say, okay, now I got to build out another system because I just don't have any more inventory. But this forecasting gives you a simple month by month process to follow to hit target goals. And I assume that as long as this forecasting works the way I anticipate it will work, and I can't see why it wouldn't work that way, if it does work, my business will probably 3x the size of itself within the next 3 years easily. And like I said, the only hurdle is that if I just hit a point where I can't source the amount of inventory that I need from my current suppliers, and in which case then I need to start figuring out, okay, where can I get more inventory from? Which ironically, I've already done that. Even though I'm nowhere near maxing out my current suppliers, I'm already building that system out. I already have the plan in my head. I know exactly what I need to do to bring in more inventory beyond that. So this is kind of a cautionary tale. Maybe at some point in time, I'll do like an actual demo of how this spreadsheet works, but I just want people to get their head around the concept of, okay, maybe because most Amazon booksellers, at least that I know, work within their business, and you need to, don't be me, and definitely have that system in place that lets you look at your business from a much granular, high-end scale of simply, you want to look at it from the simplistic point of, it could be like, for every dollar I put in, what comes out? For every piece of inventory that comes in, what comes out? For every new piece, I don't know. There's 100 different ways you can gauge this forecasting, but it's a very important element because I guess when I finished this tracker, I didn't realize how easy it would be to get to certain sizes because I had never really thought about it because I was just so involved in those small systems within the big system that I never focused on, okay, how do I get the big system to grow? And that's probably like one of the most important things for you as a business owner. Like had I made this realization 10 years ago, my business would probably be like 20x the size it is right now, which is really kind of a crying shame and makes you really depressed when you think about it. But the important thing is like better late than never, right? So I figured this out and now there's a podcast so you know about this and you can also pay attention to it within your business as you're starting it up. And I've also found too on top of that is that I never really took the time to sit down and see. I guess in my silent head is I had never ordered everything I could for my suppliers, so my suppliers all had an infinite supply of inventory. And this forecasting thing has shown me, no, there is going to be a point where that is going to become an issue. And the fact that maybe I'm probably at this point maybe 2 years away from ever hitting that. But the point is that I can now start and build and test this new system out. So this new system is completely in effect by the time I hit that point. And really all I need to do is turn up that new system to bring in more inventory once the other systems have been depleted of inventory per se. So it's just from all aspects of it, it's going to make you a much better entrepreneur. And I think because this element of it is not something that most people think about because this is not an important thing within like your 9-to-5 job because there's other people that are making those decisions and you don't really have to make those decisions. But when you're your own business owner, this is a very important thing. And while I will tell you that a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that you need to focus on this high level stuff 150% of your time and just hire people to do everything else. I personally am not a proponent of that. I do not want to have a company that has a lot of employees. Yes, I have people that do things for me, but I like to keep it small and I like to keep it simple. So, and I also believe that most people that get into the space of Amazon bookselling, they get into that space for that very specific reason. They don't want to be the person that's managing a staff of 150 people. This is a small and scrappy business. And so I think the vast majority of Amazon booksellers are going to work in their business for one thing. And two, I do think that there's a strong reason why you should have a balance between working in your business and working on your business. But I do realize that I have neglected the working on my business aspect of it. And I will tell you that if you're really focused on growth, that's where the growth is going to come from. And if up to this point you've been like, God, growing a business is so hard, there is a very good possibility that the reason why growing a business is so hard for you is because you're stuck in this trap where you're not looking at your business from the outside of it, but rather looking at it from the inside. Because I'm just going to reiterate this one more time and then I'll wrap this episode up. But think about it from the perspective of if you're working in your business, you're looking at all those complex components of your business that assemble to make the end product. So just to give you an example, like bookselling, you're looking at the aspect of buying the books, then you're looking at the aspect of processing the books, then you're looking at the aspect of shipping the books into Amazon, then you're looking at the aspect of selling the books, and then you're looking at the aspect of all the different things that Amazon makes you do, fixing high price alerts and you got to figure out your FBA fees. You got to make sure that you're not getting smashed with any FBA fees because they put bad size metrics into the database. And I mean, just all this crap. And there's so much there. But if you step away and look at it from the outside of the business, don't worry about those individual components, but just worry about the overall business itself. You'll see that it's as simple as put $1 in here, goes through the machine, $2 come out. And then you say, well, I'm just going to put, instead of putting $1 in there, I'm going to put $2 in there. And then pretty soon you're going to put $3 in there and $4 in there. And it's just a very basic way to look at something that can be very complex. And our brains handle easy way better. And this was a very eye-opening experience for me to be like, man, I've got this business and it'll be really easy to scale. I just have to focus on this important aspect of it. And we have been doing that, and we're already seeing great results from it. So I highly encourage everybody to just take some time to think about this episode and think, okay, if you're currently selling, do you have a system that's looking at it from the outside of your business, not from the inside of the business? And if you don't, and if you're not really sure how to start something like that, I personally think that if you can come up with your own system, that's better, because I can show you my system, but my system is designed for my brain. And it would be far better for you to take the concept and create the system that works for your brain, because we're all different people, and maybe my system is going to be like, well, that's stupid to you, but this other system that might be stupid to me might be perfect for you. But if you don't have any clue, feel free, reach out to me, sales@kingsridgemedia.com, and I'd be happy to sit down with you and just discuss this aspect and see what's something that you could design that works for you to be able to see this in the long haul. And I've shown this to a couple other clients up to this point, and a lot of them, their responses was like, well, I can never ever get that kind of inventory coming into my store. And see now, and you might say, well, that's a defeatist thing, or that's like, well, now, I mean, this doesn't really work, because if I can't get the inventory in, it's a big problem, or I'll never get there. But it's actually exactly what you're looking for, because if to hit your financial goals, you can't get the inventory in that you need to hit those financial goals, you need to reevaluate the inventory you're buying, because maybe you need to buy more profitable inventory. Or two, you need to look at it and say, okay, I got a problem here. So when I hit that wall and I can't go any higher because I can't get enough inventory from the places I'm getting inventory, what then am I going to do? And you can start thinking about that plan right now, instead of waiting until you're at that point and then trying to fumble through and figure out what you're going to do. So I think I've gone enough on this episode, so I'm going to wrap this up again. Email address, if anybody has any questions, comments, sales@kingsridgemedia.com. You can also go to kingsridgemedia.com and just find a contact button and contact me through there. And the other thing is as always, we do have some pretty awesome sourcing programs for Amazon booksellers, help them get more inventory for their stores. If you're interested in those, check out the links in the show notes, or also just jump over to Kingsridge Media. They're all laid out there with a nice button that if you want to set up a time with us to learn more about them and see how we can help you get started in them, we can set that up as well. So I want to thank everybody again for their continued support. Please feel free to message if you do have any comments or anything about topics we've covered, or topics you'd like to see me cover if I haven't covered it. I do have a pretty lengthy list of things I'm going through, but at the same time, I'm always looking for what you as a listener want to hear. So with that, we'll wrap this up, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks on the next episode. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Prime Bookseller Podcast. Join us for the next episode as we discuss all things Amazon bookselling.